terminals. And without getting too technical,
these are chiller units, which are basically compressors. They compress refrigerant, which cools the water through a series of copper coils.
The chiller room is part of the airport's new energy-efficient central utility plant, providing heating and cooling to the entire airport. The $423 million project, which took 4 years to complete, replaces the 50-year-old plant and is considered to be the first of its kind.
This is going to be the first sustainable utility plant. It's going to reduce our carbon footprint. It was done in a green and environmentally friendly way, and it just showcases the kind of leadership we have here at LAWA, making LA one of the greenest and best cities in the country.
City and airport officials gathered for a grand opening ceremony. The new facility, which generates its own electricity, is 25% more energy efficient than the original plant. This translates into an estimated savings of $7 million in gas and electrical costs. Now check out this original control panel that they've used since the 1960s. Now it features switches, buttons, and these steam gauges. All of this now being run from the high-tech new control room. The state-of-the-art control room features large screen monitors and the latest technology, replacing these original dials and meters. So what does all this mean for passengers?
They can expect to be comfortable in the terminals.
Airport officials say the new plant brings them one step closer to modernizing LAX. The replacement central utility plant took more than 1.5 million man-hours to build and employed more than 300 construction workers. Well, the LAPD's Hollenbeck division is doubling the amount of foot patrols in its area. As Gil Reyes reports, officers plan to cut crime one step at a time.
They're ditching their police cars and walking the beat. More officers patrolling on foot, extending the hand of friendship to residents and business owners near Mariachi Plaza.
Very enriching for our community. The kids will see police other than, oh, they're here because we got a ticket or there's a problem or I'm in trouble. This way they can see them. They can see that they're regular people.
The LAPD is doubling the number of foot patrols in Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, and El Sereno. 4 new foot patrol corridors added. That makes 8 total for LAPD's Hollenbeck division. Officers want people to know them on a first-name basis.
It's kind of hard to do that when the police car's speeding by you. And a lot of people want to talk to the police, but they just don't have that opportunity. At least this way, the officers will be on foot. They'll be approachable. We have seen it already in the existing foot beats areas that we have, where community members will come up to the officers and share with them problems that they're having.
Problems like street lighting, parking, and, of course, crime. During the first 3 months of this year, violent crime jumped 26% citywide, much of that gang crime.
Unfortunately, there has been a small uptick in crime in the local area, but thinking ahead, planning ahead, using different models that could help. Our captains here and our hardworking men and women from our police department are going to put something else on the streets that's going to help continue to reduce our crime.
And more community policing without patrol cars. In Boyle Heights, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
LAPD foot patrols are taking place on 1st Street, Cesar Chavez Boulevards, and 6 other nearby corridors. Paying tribute to our fallen heroes, teen poets get some words of wisdom from a published author, and LA firefighters show community members how they save lives. All these stories and more in City Beat. The U.S. flag was proudly displayed on cars and floats honoring U.S. war veterans during the 26th annual Canoga Park Memorial Day Parade in the San Fernando Valley. Fire trucks made their way down the parade route as hundreds of folks lined the streets to watch the festivities.
I love Memorial Day. My dad was a veteran. We have a lot of veterans in our family, and I respect the veterans. Thank you.
I think Memorial Day is a wonderful, wonderful celebration for our troops and our country.
A teen poetry workshop was held recently at the Cypress Park Library, featuring Luis Rodriguez, who was selected last year by Mayor Eric Garcetti as the Poet Laureate of Los Angeles. Rodriguez said the goal of these workshops is to perform readings and talk to as many kids as possible to get them interested in reading.
I love books, and libraries were like my favorite places to go. And when you're a young kid and you don't got language and you're shy and you don't know what's going on, books are really great. they never attack you, they never jump on you, they never can tell you're never going to amount to anything. So I found books to be a really great refuge.
The workshop is part of a series of workshops presented throughout the LA Public Library system as part of the Los Angeles Youth Poet Laureate Contest. All teen poets are encouraged to enter. The winner will be named LA Youth Poet Laureate and win a book deal to publish their first book of poems. More than 100 fire stations opened their doors recently as part of Fire Service Day, giving the community a chance to recognize their firefighters, see what they do, and how they do it. Firefighters at Fire Station 13 in Pico Union held several demonstrations highlighting their equipment and tools. Folks got a chance to see the jaws of life in action as firefighters showed them how they break into cars when someone is stuck inside. Community members also got to tour the inside of the firehouse.
This is just like our own home, away from home, that we eat, we sleep, we cook, we clean, do the same things you do at your normal house, and it's a chance for them to kind of see what their community fire station is all about and what we do.
Firefighters always look forward to this day. It's a great day to have an open house, to have all the community come in, and we do special things across the city.
The LA Zoo recently observed the 10th anniversary of Endangered Species Day by hosting a two-day event featuring a variety of educational activities, highlighting efforts to save 4 unique species who are facing extinction, such as the western lowland gorilla, the California condor, the peninsula longhorn, and the mountain yellow-legged frog. Zoo guests learned about the importance of preventing the loss of those endangered animals. The action-adventure earthquake film San Andreas is shaking things up in theaters. And at the movie premiere in Hollywood recently, action film star Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson really got the crowd going in true Hollywood fashion. That's the focus of This Week in Tweets. The Rock posted a short video clip on Twitter of him making a blockbuster entrance hanging off an LAFD fire truck while a helicopter swooped overhead. He wrote, "One of the greatest and most epic red carpet arrivals in the history of Hollywood. Thank you, LAFD. Thank you, Warner Brothers. But most of all, thank you, fans." Johnson, who plays a Los Angeles Fire Department helicopter pilot in the film, had a chance to hang out with the real-life members of the LAFD at Firehouse 27. He tweeted, "Very cool to spend some time with the boys before our big San Andreas premiere. An honor for me to represent these colors in our film." Johnson later retweeted a pic of him and LA Fire Chief Ralph Terrazas posted by San Andreas Movie. It read, hashtag San Andreas star Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and our real-life first responders. LAFD Conversation tweeted a pic of Johnson arriving on a fire truck, writing, "Honoring fellow first responders and helping The Rock with a star-worthy entrance." The premiere was held at the Chinese Theater. And that's a look at This Week in Tweets. A jam session that can't be beat, an interactive performance of a children's classic, and a hands-on exhibit. All this in this week's Things to Do. Get moving and get inspired with a Latin jam session. Hit the dance floor with Andrea Rodriguez as she shows you the steps to cumbia dance, originating in Colombia's Caribbean coastal region and Panama. Make sure to wear comfortable clothes and shoes. Jam sessions are participatory and centered around movement and music. All jams are free and all ages and skill levels are welcome. Jam sessions begin on Saturday, June 6th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The open dance floor is from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Live music will be playing all night long. The festivities take place at the Hacienda Heights Community Center at 1234 Valencia Avenue in Hacienda Heights. For more information, visit fordtheaters.org. Children's theater doesn't get much better than this. On Saturday, June 6th, take the really young ones, the kids, your neighbors' kids, or just yourself out to see this very fresh and original production of Cinderella at Theater West. With the smart book and clever lyrics written by Lloyd J. Schwartz, along with the wonderful music composed by Michael Paul, you and your family will be in for an amazing, fun, and interactive musical treat. Cinderella asks for help from the audience, both to get information and help her discover what she really wants. And it seems to thrill the children in the audience until the very end. Children, if they choose, can ride horses with the prince, go to the ball, and even help them figure out who actually fits that glass slipper. Theater West is located at 3333 Cahuenga Boulevard West. Tickets for adults are $12 and for kids, $10. Learn more at theaterwest.org. And for something your child can really get into, check out the Skirball Center's Noah's Ark exhibit on display now. The permanent, award-winning children's and family destination is the talk of the town. Play, climb, build, explore, make believe, and make friends, all while exploring a floor-to-ceiling wooden ark filled to the rafters with whimsical animals. Share in a timeless story and together envision a better world. The Skirball Center is located at 2701 North Sepulveda Boulevard. For more details, visit skirball.com/exhibitions. And that's a look at some things to do. And finally, from John Cho to Ming Na Wen, Asian Pacific Islanders in Hollywood have received much-needed support from 3 nonprofits making moves behind the scenes. As Gil Reyes shows us, these groups received special honors during Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month celebrations at City Hall focused on providing more opportunities for emerging young talent in film and television. Honorees included the Coalition of Asian Pacifics in the Entertainment Industry, or CAPE. For years, CAPE has nurtured up-and-coming screenwriters with its new Writers Fellowship program.
We will continue to persevere and continue with passion.
Congratulations. Also honored, the folks behind the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival. In April, the festival screened more than 150 mostly independent movies from Asian Pacific filmmakers, a group largely underrepresented in mainstream Hollywood. For that, Visual Communications received the Spirit of LA Award.
I'd like to dedicate this award to Linda Mabala, our former executive director who passed away 12 years ago. Your spirit continues to live with us.
Like a queen, yeah.
Our final awardees began hosting local Korean talent competitions 2 years before American Idol. These days, the group known as Collaboration, with a K, is also collaborating with stars like Randall Park from TV's Fresh Off the Boat and John Cho from Star Trek and Selfie to help shatter Asian Pacific stereotypes in pop culture.
One show became this huge nationwide movement, and having the roots in LA means so much to us, and to have this honor means so much to us.
City leaders say thanks for their contributions to the entertainment industry.
To provide billions of dollars to the local economy, the cultural and historical significance of what Asian American Pacific Islanders bring to our region.
And will continue to bring if given the chance. At City Hall, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
A full rundown of special events on Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month can be found at culturela.org. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. I'm Yana Kane. From all of us here at LA This Week, thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Did you know the average LA resident uses about 89 gallons of water each day? Challenge yourself to conserve. Turning off the faucet when you brush saves up to 10 gallons of water. Taking a 5-minute or less shower saves up to 15 gallons of water. Washing only full loads of laundry saves up to 30 gallons of water. And fixing a running toilet can save up to 50 gallons of water. Keep it in mind all day, every day. It's water conservation the LA way.
Hi, I'm Shannon Lamert Park. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35, our city, our channel.
Mr. O'Farrell has arrived. Sergeants, please call the members. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, June 2nd. We want to welcome you to the your Los Angeles City Council's chambers. We're being joined by a magnificent men's choir. We're going to begin a very important celebration.
ashes and rubble, out of the smoke, out of our night of struggle, can we see a ray of hope? One pale thin ray reaching for the day. We can build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city. Not a city of angels, but we can build a city of we may not reach the ending, but we can start slowly but truly mending, brick by brick, heart by heart. Now, maybe now, we start learning how we can build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city. Not a city of angels, but we can build a city of man. When your trust is all but shattered, when your faith is all but killed, you can give up bitter and battered, or you can slowly start to build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city. Not a city of angels, but finally a city of
Let's hear it again for the Los Angeles Gay Men's Chorus.
Let's give them one more round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so very much. That was just beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you. What a beautiful morning, a beautiful start to the week. Thank you so much. Colleagues, today we are honoring leaders and legends in the LGBT community and shining the spotlight on a few of the pioneers in Los Angeles who paved the way for us to live more freely in our great city. These individuals were out, proud, and fighting for LGBT rights before it was acceptable in mainstream society. Because of their courage, they paved the way for the rest of us to live exactly as who we are today. We are incredibly fortunate to have not one, but two partners on the City Council and in the Controller's Office on LGBT issues. City Controller Ron Galperin, who is unable to join us this morning, unfortunately, and our colleague, Council Member Mike Bonin. Together, along with the rest of our city family, including Mayor Eric Garcetti and City Attorney Mike Feuer, many other city family members are with us today, who are out and proud, and we will continue to carry the torch for pride, equality, and freedom of expression in the City of Angels during this special month, LGBT Month, Heritage Month in Los Angeles, and beyond. Before we get to all of our guests, ladies and gentlemen, the other half of the LGBT caucus on the Los Angeles City Council, Mike Bonin.
Thank you, Mitch, for the intro. I'd say I'm the other half of the LGBT part of the LGBT caucus. I think we actually have a lot of members who are straight who are part of the LGBT caucus as well. And that's a damn good thing. I want to thank Mitch for putting this event together today. He and his staff did a tremendous job assembling this program and this event. It was just a few years ago when this event started, I think 2006 or 2007, and it actually would have been unimaginable at that point that there would have been more than one LGBT elected official in the city to be involved in this event. Back then, there was only one state in the entire country that had same-sex marriage, my home state of Massachusetts. It was a time before we here in California had won and then lost and then won again our rights to marriage. It was a time before Ted Lieu had passed a bill banning conversion therapy for young LGBT teens who were thrown into forced psychiatric treatment by their parents. It was a time when you weren't considered a sane member of the LGBT community if you thought going to the Supreme Court was a way to win your rights. And here we stand on the verge of, actually winning full nationwide recognition of the right to marry at the Supreme Court. We're going to acknowledge and recognize some heroes and some pioneers today. I wanted to also mention one person and recognize someone posthumously. Grandpa Walton, Will Geer, was a member of the LGBT community, an Angelino, a pioneer of the gay rights movement. I was a little horrified a little bit earlier today when a couple members of my staff had no idea what the Waltons television show was. But for those of you who remember the show in the 1970s, the patriarch of that family, the sort of butch but sensitive and ornery, wise patriarch of that show, Grandpa Walton, was an actor named Will Geer, who lived here in Los Angeles. And Will Geer was, in the 1930s, the lover of Harry Hay, who was one of the real founders of the LGBT movement here in Los Angeles, a resident of CD13 for a while. And I mention Will Geer, one, because a lot of people don't know about his history, but two, also because of what he represented. He's the one who radicalized Harry Hay, and Harry Hay founded the Radical Fairies. So to radicalize the radical was a big deal. But Will Geer was actually blacklisted because he refused to testify before HUAC. Will Geer was actually a huge proponent of civil rights for everyone. Will Geer was also a huge proponent of the labor movement and of the Native American community. And I acknowledge that because I think that's so important for our community today as we're on the verge of achieving here in this country full equality. That we only got here because we were part of a broad coalition that fought for us. And that as long as there are immigrants who are discriminated against or marginalized or taken advantage of because they don't have a simple piece of paper, we ain't done with our battle. As long as women don't have full reproductive rights and don't have control over their bodies, we ain't done with our battle. As long as there is a generation of young men in this county who, because of an unequal justice system, are consigned to a life of prison, we're not done with our battle. And as long as people are sleeping on the streets and as long as people are not earning a living wage, although that's going to be changing very soon, we are not done with our battle. So I want to applaud everybody who's helped get us here today and acknowledge that even after the Supreme Court rules, I hope, in our favor, we have a lot of work to do to make sure that there is full equality and full justice for everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Mike. And as Mike mentioned, in addition to the allies that we have on the City Council, we have other allies, and any successful social movement takes the cooperation and collaboration with allies who support this. With us today, standing with us, is Mayor Eric Garcetti, who will now make a few remarks. Speaking of allies, Mayor Eric Garcetti.
Thank you. Thank you. I know, don't worry.
Welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members, members of the community, Channel 35 viewers, everybody who's here today. I just want to say thank you, first of all, to the two council members on the left and the right of me for their courage, for their bravery, and for what they do to inspire a whole new generation of LGBT youth who can see that they can be in leadership, that they can do the things that change the face of the world, and who connect that this isn't just about the struggle of one group of people or groups of people, but it is the struggle for all of us. We are so proud. That song that was sung from Godspell talks about the City of Angels, and it was not a song about Los Angeles, but it might as well have been a song about Los Angeles, because this really is the city of second chances, a place where for many, many years people came to when they couldn't stay where they were, for LGBT youth who were fleeing homes and communities that were less inviting. They came here to the corners of Hollywood Boulevard, where the first gay rights march west of the Mississippi stepped off. They came here where there were bars like the Black Cat that long before Stonewall, which has been captured, as it should, the national imagination as the stepping off point for the LGBT movement. It was at the Black Cat in Silver Lake that Councilmember O'Farrell and I worked together to make sure we knew that history, where we had the same impact of folks just coming together at New Year's to celebrate and to be with those that they loved, and a police force back then that cracked down and cracked heads. Look how far we've come now with leadership in the LAPD that is LGBT, the way that we have integrated this city to be an example not just for Angelenos but for the world. This month should be more than a month of remembering history. I hope that the Supreme Court will make this a month of making history. And for all of us, we have an opportunity to recognize that struggle we all have as Americans, get closer and closer to being who we say we are. A nation that will not judge you by where you've come from or whom you love or how you worship God or if you worship God or where you live or the color of your skin, but will judge you by who you are. And behind me is a sea of folks who are fighting that fight to make sure that it's not just about marriage equality, but a more equal society and prosperous society for all of us. I want to thank the three folks that are being honored here today, because so often the pages of history move so swiftly we don't always learn about who they are. But at a time when people were afraid to talk about who they were, Alan Bell recognized that communication was the bedrock of community and helped make sure that lives were saved and lives were touched. At a time when people were afraid to put their bodies on the line, Carolyn Weathers recognized the oppressive injustice around her and stood up to protest. And at a time when people were dying of AIDS, including my cousin Jimmy, Jimmy Hester, one of the first people to fall from the AIDS epidemic here in Los Angeles, an openly gay Latino man, Matt Redman created a phone hotline soon after AIDS Project LA to let people know they were not alone, and we would begin a war that we still have to wage and win. So as mayor, it is my pledge to always stand by you, not just as an ally, but as a part of this movement. The LGBT movement helped politicize me when I was a young activist in college, when ACT UP in New York City was looking at the price of medicine and people's access to be able to deal with this terrible disease. On campus, when we saw so many hate crimes, and I became a leader alongside my LGBT brothers and sisters. And even now, when I was recently in Council President Wesson's office working one day, as I know many of you know that I do, I had a meeting with the transgendered community, and if we needed to see that the fight still goes on, we just saw that so powerfully yesterday. As Caitlyn Jenner revealed herself to the world and came out to the world, I had a similar meeting of transgendered activists here in the city of Los Angeles. And I'm so proud that on the footsteps of this City Hall, we had the first job fair for transgender residents in the history, we believe, of the country when I was a council member. This is a place that doesn't just mark history, we make history. Thank you for doing that here today.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti. We have another ally, another champion in the forward momentum of rights for gays and lesbians, transgender, LGBT, someone who has a history, a track record, and someone who filed a brief urging the U.S. Supreme Court to uphold the right for gays and lesbians to marry, and that is our city attorney, Mike Feuer.
Thank you, Mitch.
Mr. City Attorney, welcome.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, before I begin, I do want to say something, Mr. President, about you. I remember very vividly one of the most moving presentations I have seen when you received an award from the Stonewall Democratic Club. And I remember your discussion of what the award meant to you and how your life and your values have evolved to reflect the very values that we commemorate today. It's very touching to me, and I won't forget it. I also want to say a little bit that's very personal. You know, as one of three brothers, I'm the eldest brother. There are always trials, tribulations, challenges, love, affection, rewards, fights, all that in the family. But I also know firsthand from the fact that my two brothers are gay, how they grappled with the challenges they confronted. Life is so much better today than it was 30 years ago. And while we still have great distance yet to travel, the work that Mitch referred to, our work on behalf of everyone in the United States to assure equal civil rights, is both fundamental to who we are as a city and deeply personal to me and to my family. Now, as for that struggle, you know, Mitch referred to our filing a brief in the Supreme Court. The day that the U.S. Supreme Court announced it was going to take the marriage cases was the day that our office let it be known that we were going to file a brief on behalf of the city of Los Angeles in support of marriage equality. But that is not the brief we filed. The brief we filed in support of marriage equality turned out to be on behalf of 226 mayors, 39 cities, the National Conference of Mayors, the League of Cities, organizations throughout the United States, because that's who we should be here in the city of Los Angeles. We should not merely be participants in struggles to assure that everyone has an opportunity to express the love that so many in our nation have been denied, but we should be leaders in that effort. And I'm extremely proud of the members of our staff who worked until midnight on Sunday night, I remember, day in, day out, to be sure that that brief would be filed and was a brief we could all be proud of. In that regard, I do want to invite members of the city family, indeed all in Los Angeles, to join us on June 16th in the Board of Public Works hearing room. At 6:30 in the evening, we're going to be holding a discussion with our lawyers, with our team, on the issues of marriage equality pending in the U.S. Supreme Court. The filing of that brief, will be hosted by KPCC's Frank Stoltz, and I urge people to come to join us. It's a free event, an opportunity to engage in a real dialogue. And I'll conclude with this. You know, we are celebrating some key leaders today, and they deserve to be celebrated. But I hope that as we reflect on the real meaning of what we're talking about today and what this month is about for the city of Los Angeles, we pause to celebrate the quiet heroes, those who don't get the recognition who are here today, but who have struggled personally, professionally, in their communities, simply to be treated like everyone in this room and everyone in this city deserves to be treated. Our office is going to continue to fight for equal rights, but that's a fight that is both public for us and very personal for so many people in this room. Let us join together with those who are fighting those personal as well as those public struggles to recognize that we are one community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. And another ally and an honorary gay colleague of ours, and I do mean honorary, and that is our friend and colleague Paul Koretz.
Well, thank you, Mitch, and I will graciously accept that comment. And thank you and Mike Bonin for putting this together. I also want to thank the Gay Men's Chorus. I have to admit, In my life, everything has gone well. I have a great family. I'm on the LA City Council. Just about the only thing left on my bucket list is I've always wanted to sing with a gay men's chorus. So maybe someday. As the mayor was saying, we've made so much progress on LGBT issues. It is not that many decades ago when undercover police were in gay bars and arresting and beating, and sometimes beating to death, people for holding hands or giving a kiss in a gay bar. We have come so far. We've seen the city of West Hollywood created with a majority of gay members, and the first open lesbian to hold an elective office at that time. We've seen downs too, like the AIDS crisis, and we've seen people coming together and ACT UP, and gays and lesbians working together to force government to respond appropriately to that. We've seen the Knight Initiative saying that marriage can only be between a man and a woman just in 2000, just 15 years ago. And not that long after that, we saw domestic partnership rights extended dramatically, and marriage in San Francisco, and marriage passing in California, and all the steps that have been taken since. We've seen transgender rights and transgender acknowledgement, although that hasn't been easy either. I actually passed a bill in the legislature about 10 years ago to ban discrimination against transgender people in health care. And it took... The bill passing was great. The only unfortunate thing is it took almost 10 years. It is finally now being implemented. Certainly a sign of progress, but lack of progress. All of these have been hard fought. I'd like to remember, actually this is terrible. I was just going to say I want to remember someone who was important to me, and I forgot his name.
It'll come back.
One of the founders of the Stonewall Democratic Club, somebody help me, and he, Morris Kite. I'm so embarrassed. I knew him for 40 years plus. And when I was in high school, I felt bad about kids that were gay and were mistreated by our high school classmates. I didn't really have a sense that there was anything one could do about it. And Morris actually was brought to one of my classes by a teacher who's still alive in her 80s, Harriet Pearl, who now I know was a lesbian. But she brought him to speak, and he spoke about gay activism at a time when it was unheard of in the early 1970s. And it gave me some hope that there was a way to help. And I joined Stonewall Democrats with him, and I've been active ever since. And I'm so proud to see all the progress that has been made over the last 40 years. I'm proud of the LGBT community, and I'm proud of this country that we have taken the steps that we've taken. So I'm so excited that we are recognizing that progress here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Before we get to our honorees, I want to express some gratitude to the people who made this event possible today. The City of Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs and General Manager Danielle Brazel. The department produced the calendar and cultural guide that we're about to unveil in a few minutes. I also want to thank the Los Angeles Times for sponsoring the event today. And with that, Susie Jack, Oriel Saenz. Yes? I would like to thank One Archives for producing the movable exhibit that is in the rotunda and hallway. Representing One Archives today is James Gillum. The LGBT Heritage Month Planning Committee, made up of several members of our staffs, including from the staffs of Mike Bonnet and myself, David Graham Casso, and Tony Arenaga. Also on the committee, Daniel Tarica from the Controller's Office, and so many more made this wonderful event happen. I want to thank also our colleagues here on the Los Angeles City Council, most of you who contributed to make today's event happen, but not all. But I'll be having conversations with the remaining ones who haven't. And I'll be asking very kindly for your contributions. And now for our distinguished guest of honorees today. We're going to start with someone who really was out there at the very beginning of the movement, and that is Mr. Alan Bell. Alan Bell is president of BLK Publishing Company, Incorporated, a company he founded in 1988 to publish magazines targeted to the black, lesbian, and gay community. At present, the firm concentrates on graphic design, print marketing, corporate identity, and custom publishing. A special focus of the company is developing materials for community-based organizations that serve the health, educational, and social needs of those residing in inner-city communities. Alan was the editor-in-chief of his high school newspaper, and since then he was founding editor of Gays Week, New York's first lesbian and gay weekly newspaper. Coogee Source, a black AIDS newsletter, and several magazines for the black, lesbian, and gay community, most notably BLK and Blackfire. For 6 years, he was film critic for the Los Angeles Sentinel, a mainstream black weekly. His film criticism has also appeared in the Los Angeles Times. Alan was born and raised in South Los Angeles and currently resides in LA. Let's give a big round of applause for pioneer Alan Bell.
Gosh, I think this is a Kanye West sort of thing to do. I'm kind of Kanye in reverse. I'm much more comfortable in front of a computer. I am glad to be here, though, because it spotlights BLK, and sometimes I think that if it's not on the internet, people don't know it. It's gone, you know. And part of what BLK was about was chronicling the lives, the hopes, the dreams of a community. We did that for 6 years, and being here perhaps spotlights not only the publication, but spotlights the community of black LGBT people that are sometimes marginalized. And if this award is putting a spotlight on our community, that's a good thing. When I put BLK together, I didn't really think of myself as an activist. I don't think of myself as an activist today. I think that what we were doing was bringing together the information that other people smarter than me, knew to take it to the next level. We chronicled what they did, what they hoped to do, and hopefully our world is a better place because we did that. I want to thank the mayor, the council, and the city of Los Angeles for recognizing what we did and realize that it wasn't just me. We had a whole staff of people who did this as well. And so I accept this on their behalf. Thank you very much.
And colleagues, our next honoree is Carolyn Weathers. Carolyn, come on down. Congratulations. Carolyn was born in Texas in 1940. She became first aware of the gay community and its oppression when in 1957 her big sister Brenda was expelled from a Texas university for being homosexual and for refusing to repudiate it and to deny herself. Carolyn herself came out in San Antonio in 1961 and then followed the call of the counterculture and moved here to California. She became a librarian with our own LA Public Library's Inner City Bookmobile and with the Service to Shut-ins program. In 1970, she joined the Los Angeles Gay and Lesbian Liberation Front, which was located in the upstairs rooms of an old house on Vermont, not far from where LA Community College is. She was involved in marches and protests, and in 1970, she and 20 to 30 members of the Gay Liberation Front stormed the stage at the American Psychiatric Association annual conference at the Biltmore and stopped a film on electric shock aversion therapy from being shown. Thank you very much for that. A precursor to that Ted Lieu legislation that I mentioned earlier, which Ted is now trying to get done at the federal level. Carolyn co-founded Clothespin Fever Press and helped lesbian authors publish their books. She was also the inspiration for Anne Bradley's lesbian writer series at a Different Light bookstore in Silver Lake in 1984. She is with us here today, and we want to thank her for everything she has done for our community. And we have a certificate for you.
Just to get in front.
Yeah. Follow the shot. Wait, you hold a little bit. Just to block the mayor's face. Wait.
When my sister was kicked out of college in 1957, she was handcuffed in a police station. She could have been sent to a mental institution, but she was expelled from college instead. And who dreamed that 13 years later, in 1970, we would both be on that stage with Biltmore. They said we were mentally ill, and we took the stage, stamped our feet, and said, hell no, we're not. And it made a difference. It made a difference in 1963 when I was the MC of a drag show at a gay bar. And it was spoofing the coronation of the Queen of the Fiesta. And many straight people from the elite Fiesta came, and they loved it. And it started a connection between the two. Who knew that today there would be so many LGBT allies? Who knew that when I became a librarian with the city, I would someday belong to a group called the Lesbrarians? Oh, the other founder of the press was Jenny Wren. So there's so much more to do. It never stops in the fight for equal rights and the recognition of humanity for all. And I encourage you, there's so much more to do, and you will do it. Don't think you don't make a difference. At the age of 75, I must say I'm happy to have been a part of the pre-Stonewall bar scene, which I loved, and post-Stonewall revolution, and so on. So please have fun on the way, and I encourage everyone to have at least one scandalous behavior before you die.
I'll wait for no longer
Thank you, Carolyn. And we're making that happen because you set the stage to make that happen. So thank you. Matt Redman is known for his uncompromising dedication to the health of the LGBT community. Matt responded to the AIDS epidemic by turning his talents and energy outward. In October 1982, he joined a few friends mobilized to take action on GRID, or gay-related immunodeficiency disease, that became to be known as AIDS. A telephone hotline was operated out of a closet in the Los Angeles Gay and Lesbian Community Services Center, where volunteers answered a single telephone and read information from a one-page AIDS fact sheet to callers. Realizing that funds were needed to educate the community and prevent the spread of the disease, the founders enlisted the help of other friends and raised more than $7,000, which became the seed money for a new organization, AIDS Project Los Angeles. Today, the organization offers services and programs to over 11,000 people every year and is dedicated to achieving health care equity and well-being for people living with and affected by HIV, the LGBT, and the other underserved communities now and have for over 30 years had a champion in the movement, and that is Matt Redman.
Thank you. I don't know how you guys do it. I don't think I've stood in the same place unmoving since my Haftorah and my Bar Mitzvah. And that was a long time ago. It was suggested that I speak from the heart today, and I will. I just happen to write better from the heart than I speak, so please bear with me. My best friend in 1982 was Nancy Cole, with whom I want to share this recognition. She deserves really all of it. Nancy and I came back to Los Angeles after, to use an anachronistic phrase, partying our brains out on Fire Island. We came back to find a terrified, sick community of people with no place to go for care or for answers. We decided to raise some money, as Mitch has just said, raise some money at a fundraiser. We enlisted our friend Max Drew to help us do that. We met our friend Irv Monroe at the Gay and Lesbian Center and set him up as the first hotline director in a little apartment we rented on Cole Avenue in Hollywood. I had the one bedroom for my office, and I think Irv was in the dining room. It was a long time ago. Nancy and I both tested positive for HIV when the test became available in 1984. And she got sick soon after and died in 1986. Ironically, I was the gay man in the partnership, and I survived, which, speaks to one of the basic tenets on which we founded AIDS Project Los Angeles and which it still stands today, and that is that AIDS could not be a gay disease. There was nothing for me to do after Nancy's death except throw myself into the work. No choice. I needed to keep our commitment alive. I needed to keep myself alive. Apparently it worked. Skip ahead with me 25 years to a board meeting at APLA in which I'm listening to the discussion about whether or not we should acquire a building in South LA to be ready for what was going to be funding, federal funding for community health centers, which none of us had ever heard of. Skip ahead with me again, another 5 years or so, and I've moved into a place in South LA called Village Green. And from my patio, I'm looking at a sort of a, just like that, sort of a, that's not ugly, but an ugly barrel-shaped building across the street in a shopping center. And a year or so later, I noticed that, oh, they've painted this building and it looks really lovely. So I thought I'd go over and see what it was. I went to the door. There's a temporary sign up there, and it says, AIDS Project Los Angeles Clinic.
Yes.
Nancy would be so proud. I want to tell you that there were a huge number of people over the years that I was lucky enough to meet and work with. Some of them are here today. Some of them are, I think, listening today. I've been very grateful for that opportunity. I want to specifically thank one of my good friends who's here today who succeeded me as a board chair at APLA, Jeff Genest, and also another dear friend who succeeded me as an APLA board chair, who's now the Commissioner of Public Works in Los Angeles, Kevin James. And I want to tell you that the person that told us about this building in South LA and about this money coming down the pike was Craig Thompson, who's been the ED of APLA for, I think, 16 years now. You know, if I was ever a visionary, this man carried that vision on and made APLA what it is today. So I want to acknowledge and thank him. I want to thank Mitch, the mayor, Mike, everybody here, the council for putting this on. And that's what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. And before we have the big reveal of the cultural guide, Carolyn is going to say a few quick words. Carolyn.
I just wanted to say that I'm honored to accept this recognition, and I accept it in memory of my late sister, Brenda Weathers. Thank you.
Well done. What? Okay. Thank you. And I understand some members have a few things to say. Maybe not.
Let me just say this.
Okay.
This was what you and Michael did today was about as classy as it gets. I was moved by the things that you said. I was moved by City Attorney Feuer and the mayor, and I'm sure that all of us seated around this horseshoe, we do feel like we're a member of the caucus. And Michael, I'm very appreciative for you saying that. We've come a long, long way, but we still have a long way to go. Let's keep our head down and keep on pushing. This was phenomenal. Give yourselves a round of applause. You surely deserve it. Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to join with my colleagues in celebrating this year's LGBT History Month, Heritage Month celebration. We know that even now more than ever, the importance of tolerance, working together, communicating is so very, very important. I'm especially proud of all the honorees, but just want to single out Mr. Alan Bell, publisher of BK. We know that he spent a lot of time in New York, but he didn't start out in New York. He started out here in South LA, in the 9th District, going to John Muir, and I think his subsequent business activities certainly have been a real beacon of understanding and of appreciating the importance of diversity and the things that we all have to offer. And so, in the African American community, LGBT issues are kind of tough, and so Mr. Bell has really been a pioneer. He's really been a change agent, and so I just want to thank you, Mr. Bell, and the other honorees for your ongoing contributions, improving the quality of life for us, not just here in Los Angeles, not just in the state, but across our country. Congratulations, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Mr. Cedillo.
Well, congratulations, and I want to thank all of you. And your words were very touching, Michael, particularly for including the immigrant community, the Latino community. Someone should be standing up there. There are gays in the Black and Latino community, and the whole LGBT spectrum. I want to talk about something we worked on with Herb Wesson when we were in the Assembly. This is how far we've come. Richard Zaldivar, big hero. This is how far we've come in this short while. We were elected, Herb and I, 1998. And Sheila Kuehl had this bill, Supervisor Sheila Kuehl had this bill. And it was about visitations. And it was whether or not a partner could visit somebody at a hospital. And it was a tough bill. And who would think that this bill, when you stand here today, that we'd have such a fight over it. But we didn't have the votes. And we needed the votes. We needed Carl Washington. And I had worked for the unions, and so Mr. President asked me to come in and come and talk to him and see if we could persuade him. We had to reframe the question and move it away from gay and lesbian partners visiting their partners to older black women who go to church. And he had to call his pastor. And it was a really difficult vote. We go inside the speaker's office, and there's all this pressure. And fortunately, Carl Washington found it both in his heart and his intellect to do the right thing. And we're able to do that. And I say that because my uncle passed away last year. And I was visiting him right before he passed. And I'm sitting in the hospital. And I'm sitting there with his partner, 25, 30 years. And, you know, in our communities, it's kind of unspoken, right? We were all very happy in a long-term relationship, given the context of AIDS, so many funerals. People would come to our house after for the receptions. And all the friends were just, they all disappeared in the 80s. It's just amazing. And so we were very happy that him and Peter had this stable relationship. I mean, it was really great. So I'm at the hospital and I'm sitting there, and you know, the nurse and doctor come to talk about the final moments and what's going to happen. And they asked, who do I talk to? And it was really nice because I knew I had voted on the bill that allowed Peter to be the one who could say what was going to be the final transition. And so we've come a long way, but we've only come that far. And I'm really tired of the hate that takes place every day in society, on the internet, Fox Television, the shock jock radio, these purveyors of hate. We hear it a lot here in City Hall. Some people are self-hating. I heard it last week in committee. It's just so tiring of people just spewing hate and hating immigrants and hating gays and the whole LGBT community. And just, there's so much hate going on that this moment is so important, because we have to continue to do this and build these coalitions of people who believe in the dignity of our humanity, and that we can have a sense of love and caring as an ethic, as a daily ethic, and that we don't have to tolerate, frankly. It's intolerable, but tolerate the hate that we hear every single day. And so, because you are the chorus, I am saying thank you for raising your voice and lifting it. Paul, just raise your voice, brother. Just continue to raise it. And thank you, Mitch and Michael. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Thank you very much. It just reminded me, Mitch, we were a scrappy lot back in those days, and we loved a good fight. Under Mr. Cedillo and I, we created the LGBT caucus in the state of California. So we had some great wins back in the day. So with that, Mr. O'Farrell, Mr. Bonin, the floor is yours.
Last piece of business, and we're going to unveil the LGBT cultural guide and calendar produced by the Department of Cultural Affairs. That's the last order of business. Again, thank you, everyone. Let's have a wonderful month of June. It is LGBT month in the city of Los Angeles.
stopped into a church. I passed along the way. Well, I got down on my knees. And I began to pray. I began to pray. Now the preacher likes to he knows I'm gonna stay. Knows I'm gonna stay. California dream on such a winter's day. All the leaves are brown, and the sky is gray, and the sky is gray. I'm in for a walk on a winter's day. If I didn't tell her, I didn't tell. I could leave today. I could leave today. California dream on such a winter's day. California dream on such a winter's day. California dream on such a winter's day.
Thank you very much, members. We have a second presentation. Mr. Caress, Mr. Blumenfield, are you ready? Very quickly, just before you get started, members, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bottom, Busqueno, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Weezer, Caress, Krikorian, Labange, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Wesson, 13 members present and a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, colleagues. Today, June 2nd, more than 200 organizations, cultural influencers, and elected officials are participating in the first annual National Gun Violence Awareness Day by wearing orange. Now, of course, things didn't go too well for me, so I don't have my orange tie on yet, but it's there, just so you know. I had my heart was in the right place. The Los Angeles City Council is proud to be part of this movement, which is inspired by a group of Chicago teens. Those teenagers asked their classmates to commemorate the life of a friend, 15-year-old Hadia Pendleton, who had been gunned down, killed just 1 week after marching in President Obama's second inaugural parade, which had been a highlight of that young life, now forever stilled. The Los Angeles City Council asked that we join with Women Against Gun Violence and others across our nation do all that we can to prevent gun violence and stem the epidemic that takes so many lives, leaves so many wounds, and inflicts catastrophic damage on families and communities throughout our country every single day. And now I'd like to ask Councilmember Blumenfield to give some remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz, and thank you for your continued leadership on this issue. You really have been a leader on this. So it's safe to say that gun violence is one of modern America's most pervasive and persistent ills. It's been my pleasure over the years to work with the Brady Campaign, Women Against Gun Violence, and others on various initiatives both at the state and the local levels to combat gun violence. Here at the Council just last year, we all worked together to pass an ordinance requiring gun owners to lock up their firearms and store them safely. As a legislator, I worked on many different bills to try to promote more gun control. Today, gun deaths in Los Angeles are at historic lows. Just last week, a city gun buyback program, though, took in 746 guns off the streets. Just in that 1 week. And I'm proud that California continues to be a leader on gun control. We have a lot of work to do in front of us. In the last 12 months, there have been 386 homicides as a result of gun violence in Los Angeles County. This 386 homicides is too many. Even one is too many, because we know that gun violence is 100% preventable. No one knows better than some of the people that are gathered here today with us the tactics and techniques that'll keep our families safe from the scourge of gun violence. But nothing happens if we stay silent. It's one of the big lessons of the Million Mom March. I don't know if you all remember the Million Mom March. 15 years ago, in fact, just 2 weeks ago, Margot and I joined her and a number of other women against gun violence, celebrating that milestone of 15 years. Because it was that march and the movement in that respect was tragically started in the San Fernando Valley. No one who remembers that time will forget the horror of that day 15 years ago when Buford Farrow, filled with senseless hate, opened fire at the North Valley Jewish Community Center, wounding 5 people before taking the life of a U.S. postal worker. Farrow's actions were meant to silence, but the voices of those who stood up against gun violence, our voices, were heard in Washington, and through the efforts of Women Against Gun Violence and other groups are being heard again and again and again. He was armed with a semi-automatic weapon, and in the years since then, we've heard that same senseless scenario played out again in Aurora, in Sandy Hook. Reminds us of the devastation. It affects all of us. I challenge anyone here to not know someone, a family member or a friend who was affected by gun violence. Sandy Hook took the life of a son of a classmate of mine from high school. If there's a cause for hope, it's that we're here together, united in cause, looking with purpose toward a future where no gun violence will mar our community or communities like ours across the nation. So thank you for letting me be part of this important presentation today.
Thank you, Bob. And now we're joined by the president of the Los Angeles-based nonprofit. Let's see. I actually have some confusing notes here, but let's hear from Margot Bennett, the president of Women Against Gun Violence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Women Against Gun Violence is pleased to be part of a coalition that's not just made up of gun violence prevention groups, but of many national community groups with a variety of interests, but all concerned with the safety of our communities and children. We are grateful for the support and hard work of the Los Angeles City Council in its efforts to keep our communities and children safe from gun violence and for their acknowledging National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Also today, on National Gun Violence Awareness Day, we are releasing our Talk Project PSA through social media. Talk is a public safety education program that helps parents and caretakers talk with their neighbors, with their families, with their children about safe gun storage. We're thankful that last year, in November 2014, the LA City Council declared Talk Day LA, and we are looking forward to the second annual Talk Day LA this fall. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Margot. And this has been a tough issue to be involved with over the years. Unlike LGBT rights and the month that we just celebrated a few minutes ago, this has sort of been an issue that's taken one step forward and two steps back and then one step sideways. We've had a lot of good progress, especially here in California. But as an example, in the late 80s, we passed bans on assault rifles in Los Angeles, and then in West Hollywood, which I was able to do, and then other cities. And then it provided momentum for state legislation by David Roberti, and then federal legislation by Dianne Feinstein for a national ban on assault weapons. Unfortunately, the NRA has proven too powerful at the federal level, and for a while, that ban on assault weapons has been set aside. Hopefully in a few years we will see that happen again, but in the meantime we know that hundreds and hundreds of lives have been lost because of it. There probably is no cause that is more tied to saving lives, and that is the reason why we have to keep fighting for this, and particularly to remember National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And we'd like to make this presentation to Women Against Gun Violence, our preeminent gun violence organization here in Los Angeles.
Mr. Englander.
Thank you, Madam President. Paul, Bob, if I could, thank you very much for your presentation. It was 20 years ago that changed my life forever. It was 20 years ago that my Uncle Michael, who was more like a dad who raised me, was killed right down the street from where I live right now. There was 3 teenagers in an attempted robbery that shot him in the back as he got scared and he ran away. And part of their initiation into a gang, they had to rob somebody. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so one of the reasons I became a police officer. So one of the reasons that I helped build an at-risk youth center not far from there, where we have almost 200 kids every day. It was one of the reasons that I ran for office, to help turn lives around. And we've been able to do that each and every day. The National Gun Violence Awareness Day should be every day, not just today. People are dying on the streets. And I thank you for this presentation. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, and thank you, Mitch, for those very moving words. And thank you to this council also, not only for recognizing this day, but for a long history of being so supportive on gun violence issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Buscaino moves. Mr. Mitch Englander seconds.
Next is committee to resolutions for approval.
Mr. Price moves and Mr. Park seconds.
Madam President, today is Tuesday, and now be the time for the flag salute.
Mr. Bonin, would you please lead us in the flag salute? Everyone, please rise for the flag salute.
Okay. Those of you who can put your hands over your heart, please do so. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Let's run through the agenda, Madam Clerk.
Madam President, there's a request to continue item 1 to June 3rd and item 5A to June 16th.
Okay, any other specials, members? Mr. Buscaino? 4 for an amendment. Okay, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next item.
Items 5 through 17 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Without objection, those items are before us. Any cards? Members, any specials?
There are cards on items 5 through 16.
Okay, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next item.
On the supplemental agenda, items 18 through 20 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes required for consideration.
Without objection, those items are before us. Any cards?
Public hearing has been held on these items, Madam President.
Members, any specials? Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next item, Madam Clerk.
Items 21 through 23 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes required for consideration.
Without objection, those items are before us. Any cards?
There are cards on items 21 and 23.
21 through 23.
21 and 23.
Thank you. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Madam Clerk, let's go to item 15.
Item 15 calls special for cards.
Wayne Spindler for item 15.
That's nice. All right, so item 15, exemption from the Bureau of Sanitation, environmental enforcement vehicles to be affixed with special decals. Yes, this is a real game changer. The two reserve officers, Buscaino and Englander, spent years drafting this exemption, so the Bureau of Sanitation environmental enforcement vehicles have to be affixed with special decals. Because they need special decals, I mean, my God, if they drove around without special decals, what would we do? How would we function as a city without this ordinance? I urge that this be passed unanimously. I know there's objections. I know there's many members here that are opposed to this item, that they want these vehicles to remain anonymous so they can sneak up behind you when you're accidentally putting diapers in the blue container and you're putting refuse into the black container when it belongs in the green container. I mean, I can't think of anything more scary in my community than watching somebody put plastic bottles in the black container and not in the blue container. I have nightmares about it. Absolutely nightmares about it. But these two wonderful people who are earning two salaries, Joe Buscaino and Mitchell Englander, have decided to save us and put these special decals and letterings on these enforcement vehicles. So really, I think these two Councilmen, these two geniuses deserve a big hand, and I urge passage of number 15. 4 years of work. Well done, gentlemen.
Thank you. No other cards on item 15, Madam Clerk? Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, Madam Clerk, item 16.
Item 16, call special for cards.
First speaker, Antonia Ramirez. Item 16. Is she here? Antonia Ramirez.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to carry your bags around because there's a lot of theft at the City Council, so do be careful. Having said that, one moment, please. As always, it catches by surprise. The Los Angeles Conservation Corps Clean and Green Youth Program for various street maintenance efforts and services throughout Council District 3. I am a little leery because a lot of these green youth programs or any of these youth programs not only invites a lot of juvenile delinquents, but this is also a place or a hub where they train or they hook up and they continue the criminal empire. Again, these youth organizations and youth programs is a hub for a lot of these gangbangers and wetbacks where they end up hooking up and planning out their mayhem and destruction. I have foreseen it in many of these youth programs, and for them, a lot of them will tell you off record that, yeah, this is where we hook up and this is where we plan our destruction. So what? What are you going to do? Call the LAPD? Yeah, good luck. So again, get good youths, get good kids who really are trying to change or trying to become better citizens. Find youths who are law-abiding. Get a lot of these white kids. Get a lot of these Asian kids. Get a lot of these African-American kids who are not gangbangers and deport the rest of the wetbacks and gangbangers, for crying out loud. We're tired of the crimes in all the L.A. We are tired of the crimes in L.A.
Ma'am, I need you to stay on the item. Audience, please.
Again, you are not monitoring these programs. We, as law-abiding taxpayers on the streets, see the destruction and mayhem. You live comfortably. We do not. We see this all over. Again, open your eyes and open your ears. Get and start monitoring these programs. Have somebody...
Thank you very much, ma'am. Madam Clerk, that concludes cards for item 16. Open the roll. Close the roll. And tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 23.
Item 23, call special for cards.
Mr. Bonin, go ahead.
Much, Madam Chair. Ooh. Wow, that was loud. Thank you very much. Colleagues, we have before us today a motion I put forward with Mr. Wesson to ask us to take a position in favor of a piece of state legislation dealing with the phenomenon of short-term rentals, something that many of you may be vaguely familiar with. I'm intimately familiar with it because there has been such extensive use of short-term rentals in my district, particularly in the coastal zone and particularly in Venice. Short-term rentals, many of you have heard of it as Airbnb. There's actually various platforms and companies, everything from Craigslist to Vacation Rental by Owner, HomeAway, and many others that allow people who are from out of town to come here as tourists and stay in a residential area for less than 30 days. It's my preferred mode of travel. It's what I do when I travel anywhere, and I think it's a good thing. It started out and has continued to be billed as home sharing. The idea that someone can rent out a spare room or a back house, or if they're out of town for an extended period of time, their primary residence, so someone can stay in a residential neighborhood and have a different experience as a tourist. I'm actually in favor of that, and I want to see that continue. Please hold my time.
Audience, I'm going to remind you, I know you're very passionate about this issue, but we cannot conduct our meeting if we continue to cheer and clap. So I'm going to ask you for your cooperation, okay?
That's good, because when I finish talking, they might want to boo me. So,
okay.
What I'm not in favor of, though, is the way the home sharing economy model has morphed into something else. I'm entirely supportive of what I just described. What I'm not supportive of, though, is what I have seen extensively in my district, which is that people buy up a bunch of properties, either single-family residences, where they do not live, and rent them out as short-term rentals, where people buy up entire apartment buildings, evict tenants, and put all of them on the market as short-term rentals, eliminating precious rental housing in the city of Los Angeles and exacerbating our affordable housing crisis. It is becoming a syndicate of speculators. And that second thing that I just described, which is having a significant impact on rental housing in Los Angeles and on neighborhood quality of life, is something that I am vigorously opposed to. And I'm going to be putting in a motion today with Council President Wesson to authorize in Los Angeles the type of home sharing I described as being supportive of, and strictly prohibit the type of stuff that I just described that is destroying our neighborhoods and exacerbating affordable housing in Los Angeles. Also providing for collecting TOT, the transit occupancy tax, from everybody. It's important that we do that. It's important that we take that balanced approach so people who do the first type of home sharing, the real home sharing, can continue to make ends meet and support themselves and continue to live. But it's also important that we protect rental housing in Los Angeles. It is absolutely vital, and we need to protect the quality of life in our neighborhoods. In my district, a recent study showed that in Venice alone, 12.5% of the housing stock is being used by short-term rentals. And a lot of it is the type of stuff I've described, which is not acceptable. And it is very important for the city of Los Angeles to have the ability to regulate that. There is a bill which this motion addresses in Sacramento, SB 593, which calls for, by Senator McGuire, calls for local control. Continues to insist that local municipalities have the ability to set regulations. It's something I think is extremely necessary. It also has another element to it. It says that the short-term rental platforms must provide to cities and counties data on which properties are being rented, at what cost, and how many nights per year. There are many in the home sharing community who are opposed to this element of the bill and think it is a threat to privacy. The bill actually does not provide for call for the provision of giving people's names and stuff like that of hosts. All it does is give the city the ability to know how much of the rental housing or how much property, how many units are being used for rental housing, and how we can properly tax and receive the revenue and enforce. We're not able to enforce at all without this information. And it is less information that we ask of a host than we do of any other small business in the city of Los Angeles. It is a minimal request compared to what we do for any other business in the city of Los Angeles.
Mr. Bonin, I'm going to remind you of your time.
Yes, thank you. So, colleagues, we'll be submitting the motion I referred to today, and I am urging us to be in support of the state bill that gives us the ability to implement things locally. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin. Mr. Koretz?
Yeah, I just want to thank Mr. Bonin for bringing this forward, and I know not everyone will agree with me here, but I think this is an example of just one area of what I call the cheating economy masquerading as a sharing economy. This can be done right, but I think it needs some serious regulation. This provides that. Right now, a very substantial part of my district, Mr. Bonin's district, and throughout the city is lost affordable housing to these situations that are really hotels or hotel-light masquerading as something else. The easiest way for us to get back our affordable housing and our housing in general is to get this problem under control. So I thank Mr. Bonin for bringing this forward and strongly support his efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Mr. Wesson.
Thank you, Madam President and members. It was a pleasure for me to join with Mr. Bonin in moving this motion forward. I too believe that the property owners have a right to do what they can within reason to make ends meet. But I also believe that what we're looking at here is a wave of the future, and this city, being the second largest city in the United States of America, we should be at the steering wheel on this. We should be setting an example. So I think that what we're doing today is sending a message that we're not going to just go quietly into the night on this, that we will ensure that we have the kind of conversation that needs to be had to make sure that we can make this work. I am very optimistic, Mr. Bonin, Mr. Koretz, to all the members, that we can do that. We just have to stay focused and take a methodical approach. And this is big deal. Billions. But this is a big council, and we do big things. And so it's, again, a pleasure and honor to work with you. And sometimes you have to take on these very challenging issues where you don't exactly see the light at the end of the tunnel or where we go. But I promise all of the people that are here and the members of this council that we will do this in an appropriate fashion, methodical. We'll have all of the data we need, and we'll get this done. So we were going to have a hearing of, I think, 10
We
and
are,
10.
but we have other members on the queue.
Then I will shut up.
Mr. Cedillo?
Just about enough has been said. I concur with my colleagues, and I trust the sober and deliberate manner in which we're going to engage this. Mr. Koretz, for the second time today, you are on point and raising your voice quite critically and thoughtfully about this matter. There is a lot of trendiness and a lot of misnomers that are involved here, but at the end of the day, we have to look at this and how it impacts local neighborhoods, impacts our very precious affordable housing stock, and how it impacts the quality of life for everyone who lives here in the city of Los Angeles. And so I thank all of you for your leadership and initiative on this matter. I concur.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. And before we get started with our public comment, Madam Clerk, can we send item 20 forthwith? Thank you. And we will have 10 minutes for and 10 minutes against. We're going to start with Speaker Philip Wilson. Philip Wilson, are you here? Welcome, sir.
Good morning. My name is Phil Wilson, and I'm the president and CEO of the Black AIDS Institute and a former AIDS coordinator for the city of Los Angeles. I've worked with many of you over the years. I'm also an Airbnb host. I'm here today to actually support the concept of home sharing. I think it's important for this city to take this issue on. I'm opposed to the city putting in a motion in support of SB 593. I don't believe that that's the tool to get this job done. We opened today's meeting with City of Angels. And I've worked in this city for many years, working to improve this city as a city of angels. And I think that home share is a contribute to that. Now, every month I invite people into my home to show them what it's like to live in Los Angeles. Every month. Now, I fill out the paperwork to pay the transit occupancy tax. I hold a meeting of Airbnb hosts where we talk about how to be better hosts, including how to make sure we're paying our transit occupancy tax.
Thank you, sir. Sir, your time is up. Thank you very much. Next speaker, Nicole King. If you please, again, help me out here. If we stop applauding, we can continue our meeting and move quickly through our speakers. Nicole King. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, esteemed council members. My name is Nicole Bailey King, and I'm a 25-year resident of the Pickfair Village in the 10th Council District. I'd like to speak to you this morning concerning home sharing in the city of Los Angeles and my experiences in terms of its cultural and economic benefits to me, my family, and my neighborhood. Nearly 2 years ago, I was strongly encouraged by a friend to make better use of my guest house, which at the time was in dire disrepair, primarily used for storage. She shared with me how through home sharing she was able to save her home from foreclosure and suggested that I might do likewise. Upon taking her advice, and since that time I've been able to save my home, much like the revitalization that I've witnessed through my neighborhood over the last years. I remember when the Pico corridor of Pickfair Village was riddled with mostly liquor stores and automotive repair shops. But now it boasts the enjoyment of sidewalk cafes,
Ma'am,
coffee shops.
your time is up. Thank you very much. Next speaker, Gus Wortman.
Hello, good morning. And my name is Gus Wortman, and I'm a 14-year-old living in Century City with my mom. And my parents were divorced, and my father's disabled due to a serious illness that he suffered in 2005. And as a result, my mom is a full-time single parent and small business owner. And my mom's business was severely impacted by the recession in 2008. And in 2013, after 28 years of business, my mom closed her warehouse and started working from home. In the fall of 2013, my mom was diagnosed with a serious illness that made it difficult for her to work. And right after that, my mom learned about home sharing. My mom started renting our guest house on Airbnb in January 2014, and it's been a complete game changer for our family. I hope that all of you here can realize our story and continue to pass laws that help home sharing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Mary Williams. Mary Williams.
Good morning. My name is Mary Williams, and you just heard from my son, Gus Wortman, and Gus explained our story. Home sharing has been a complete game changer for me. One thing about it is it has made housing affordable for me and my family. It's allowed us to stay in our home. And I really urge you to take the time and what's necessary to go through the process of taking a close look at this issue and coming up with legislation that will create, like what Mike Bonin explained, a real win-win for everybody. So that people like myself who legitimately share my home, I have a small guest house in the back of my property, so that we can continue to share and welcome visitors from all over the world to Los Angeles. It's really a complicated issue. It's taken me a long time to rebuild my business. It's a process I've had to go through, and I know that you need to do that with this as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker is Jesse Welch.
Good morning, Council. I'm Jesse Welch. I'm from District 13. A few years ago, I lost my job, and home sharing is what allowed me to stay in my home in between jobs. Once I got back on my feet, I continued to do home sharing, and the extra income that I make from home sharing has allowed me to start my own nonprofit educating foster youth. About a year ago, I met a young man named, we'll call him Jay. He helped put his father in prison for 150 years for raping a young girl, effectively orphaning himself. He was homeless when I met him, and through work with my nonprofit, he now is in college and has a place to live. I oppose this bill 593 because it's a threat to home sharing. It's a threat to the work that I do. It's a threat to my nonprofit, and it's a threat to making real meaningful impact in the foster care system. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Vanessa Johnson. Vanessa Johnson. I know it's hard to hear me when you are applauding, so I'm trying to do my best. Vanessa Johnson.
My name is Vanessa Johnson, and I am an Airbnb host. I'm a resident of South Los Angeles for more than 50 years. I felt a need to be here today on behalf of the thousands of residents that, like myself, home sharing allows them to remain and living in this city. I began hosting more than 3 years ago, and when I couldn't afford to pay my bills or maintain my property, When my husband fell ill to an incurable illness, I had to cut back on working in order to be his full-time caregiver. Without the supplemental income that I receive from hosting, I am now able to maintain my home and be my husband's full-time caregiver.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Your time's done. Thank you. The next speaker is Harvey Slater. Harvey Slater.
Good morning. My name is Harvey Slater. I am a director at large on the historic Highland Park Neighborhood Council and the Land Use Committee chair. The Highland Park Neighborhood Council recently passed a motion to submit a committee impact statement in favor of home sharing. Today I'm just speaking as an Angelino homeowner my whole life and a home sharing host. Home sharing is an example of good old American innovation. The people have exercised their Ninth Amendment rights to work and leverage assets at their disposal to make ends meet and pursue prosperity and happiness. It's not the city's job to stifle this kind of innovation. It's their job to actually figure out a way to make it work for everybody. The city of Los Angeles does not need SB 593 or the state to do its lawmaking and governing for it. That would be basically passing it up to the state and turning our backs on thousands of tax-paying Angelinos. We have the resources and the talent and the municipal resources to take care of the business here in the city of Los Angeles. So I encourage City Council to not support this bill and to pursue it on a local level. Thank you.
Sir. We are now moving on to speakers for the proposal. First speaker is Linda Lux.
Good morning, council members. My name is Linda Lux. I am the former president of the Venice Neighborhood Council and member of the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners. I'm speaking here in favor of the motion because what's happened to Venice is a disaster. People wake up in the morning and there's hotels on all sides of them. Residential rentals of short-term rentals is illegal in this city and it's not being enforced at all. And neighborhoods in Venice and other parts of the city are turning into wall-to-wall de facto hotels. It's not right. No one is opposed to home sharing. If you have a room to rent out, no problem. That's always been the way of Venice, always, since its inception. However, turning full-time homes and full-time apartment buildings and kicking out long-term tenants who've been there for years in order to make a bigger buck is not home sharing. I know personally people who've been illegally evicted from their rent-controlled units so that the owners can make more of a profit. And this is going on for full buildings and individual homes. It has to be regulated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Steve Clare.
Good morning, members of the City Council. My name is Steve Clare. I'm the Executive Director of Venice Community Housing Corporation. We're an affordable housing and community development nonprofit operating in the Venice and surrounding neighborhoods in the west side of Los Angeles. Venice Community Housing supports this resolution. We thank Council Members Bonin and Wesson for introducing this resolution, and we urge that the City Council adopt it. Venice has been dramatically and negatively impacted by the proliferation of mostly illegal short-term rentals in our community. As Councilman Bonin has already indicated, almost 15% of the rental housing stock in Venice has been converted to hotel use in violation of local zoning and building and safety laws. Short-term rentals have disrupted residential neighborhoods and taken desperately needed rental housing off the rental market. SB 593 will give Los Angeles the tools it needs to identify the scope and breadth of the problem and have the ability to craft a solution for Los Angeles that is suited to the local conditions here. We know that Airbnb. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Next speaker, Jane Taguchi. Jane Taguchi.
Thank you. I'm a native LA, born and raised. I've lived in Silver Lake for 19 years now. I support this resolution. A year ago, the new owners of the house across the street started their second illegal Airbnb rental. It's a house that sleeps 14 people. So you can imagine how disruptive it has been with all the guests coming and going. Not only that, but the owners have been vindictive against us neighbors because we reported them to Building and Safety. SB 593 will give cities a way to collect information on short-term rental businesses. It won't block the ability of a city to enact their own regulations in the future. For example, the way Santa Monica City has done. Many Airbnb hosts feel they're entitled to rent their house out on a short-term basis, but it is breaking the law. The problem is that the city has difficulty enforcing it. I am a hardworking Angelino, and I would never resort to illegal activities to make extra money. Just because there are many people doing it doesn't make it right. I am fighting to maintain the character of my neighborhood. All I have heard from Airbnb people is, let's get rid of the bad actors. So let's do this. Let's pass this. I want peace in our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Very much, ma'am. Next speaker, Todd Darley. Todd, there you are. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Todd Darling. I'm an Airbnb member and homeowner with an extra room. I've used Airbnb twice, once in a spare room in a great loft with the residents of the loft. Second time in a dumpy condo run by a series of real estate agents and property management companies. I'm also a citizen of Venice, and I've seen that the bulk of Airbnb is not mom and pop. The bulk is apartment houses emptied of its residents in favor of short-term rentals. The mom and pop that rents the spare room essentially act as a kind of human shield for a much larger operation. Short-term rentals are illegal in LA. It raises LA's cost of living, contributes to our increasing homeless population, and clearly violates the rights of our fellow citizens. For those evicted, there is no organization to print stickers to wear here. What needs protection are the housing rights of LA's residents against a rather large billion-dollar behemoth that, and it's operating in the state of California. I urge you to support SB 593. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Elena Pop.
Good morning. My name is Elena Pop. I'm the Executive Director of the Eviction Defense Network, a nonprofit that represents tenants with housing problems. We have seen a great increase in the number of tenants coming in with illegal notices of eviction, particularly rent-controlled tenants, in order to turn rent-controlled units into Airbnb units. I oppose that practice. I am in favor of the motion. The motion does not threaten home sharing, and in fact, I've been considering for the last several months, we have 2 spare rooms, I've been considering becoming an Airbnb host. It is essential that the folks that are in this room realize that this motion does not threaten legitimate home sharing, that the bill only would allow the city council to pass local ordinances that would protect rent-controlled units. Every time we lose a rent-controlled unit, it is a devastating impact on the families that are displaced, and it costs $300,000 to replace one affordable unit. We cannot afford to lose any more units. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and that concludes our speakers for this item. Madam Clerk, Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to sort of wrap up and respond to many of the comments we've heard. I think what we heard here today from both sides is almost unanimous support for the concept of home sharing, of renting out a back room or a spare house or your own primary residence when you're not at home. And I think we heard considerable opposition to the phenomenon that has been concerning me, where we have folks coming in and buying up huge chunks of housing or just turning place into substitute or rogue hotels. That's not home sharing. So what I've heard is a lot of sentiment in favor of home sharing and a lot of opposition to the concept of rogue hotels and the elimination of rental housing. I think there's tremendous common ground here. A lot of folks said that we need to act locally instead of waiting for the state. There are potentially different pieces of legislation in Sacramento, some of which will restrict local control and actually mean that many of the things that both sides called for we will be unable to do. and then some which give us the tools enabled to enact local legislation. And while there may be some differences in opinion on some of the details of SB 593, SB 593 is the leading bill that provides for local control and gives us the information by which to exercise local control and preserve the kind of things, the home sharing that folks here are championing, and crack down on the kind of rogue hotel and rental destruction type stuff that we all seem to want to prohibit. So thank you, colleagues. Ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin, and we're going to refer this matter to the Rules Committee without objection.
No, it didn't.
Yep. That'll be the order. Thank you very much. Next item, item 4, Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Madam President. Call this item special for a technical amendment, and it should read as follows. I'd like to move that the Housing Committee report be amended to replace each reference to Imperial Gardens to Imperial Courts on this item, per the request of HACLA. Have a second? Thank you. Mr. Fuentes, thank you.
Thank you very much. We have one card for item number 4, Antonia Ramirez. Okay. Well, she's a...
Thank you very much for blocking the way. Thank you very much. Here's a request for $2 million waiver of payment in lieu of taxes for city programs and recreational services, which will no doubt go to the criminal deviant wetbacks and Chango Latino gangbangers. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, they have, the Latino Changos are able to get into all these programs and housing thanks to us. And again, I say I don't espouse and I don't help these Latino Chango gangbangers or wetbacks because it is their karma. They have stolen, they have committed violence, they are reaping what they have lived. Having said that, I believe that this program and these recreational services should be put forth for our military veterans and our pilots and our senior citizens. Again, most of our American-born senior citizens are walking homelessly. They are chronically homeless, walking around aimlessly. No one helps them. No one talks to them. There are no services for food, breakfast, lunch, or dinner here or anywhere. Many of us do go out and get lunches for them and bring it to them. No one pays us, but we do it because we love to help others, for the most part anyway. And again, our military veterans are the same. They are jumping from one place to another trying to get lunch, breakfast, or dinner. It's not like in Santa Monica where you have all these programs to help them and feed them.
Ma'am, you need to stick to the item.
Again, city programs and recreational services. This is $2 million. Come on, let's allot that for legal, law-abiding American citizens. Stop the wetback and gangbang subsidies. It's ridiculous. It's outrageous. We are living on the streets because of that. So you're wiping out the entire middle class of Americans and putting us on the streets. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our cards. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes. That's adopted as amended.
Thank you. Item passes. Next item, Madam Clerk, item 5.
Item 5, call special for cards.
First speaker, Kevin Jones, for item 5, 5A.
Madam President, for the record, 5A has been continued to June 16th.
Your item has been continued, sir. Do you still wish to speak?
I would like, may I have any comment with regard to it being continued?
Go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you very much. So, good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, council members, staff members, and attendees. I'm counsel to the property owner, 1630 West 3rd Street, Incorporated, which is the item 5A on the calendar. My role here today is to urge the adoption of the resolution and findings of the Housing Department, currently referred to as the Los Angeles Community Investment Department, thereby removing 1630 West 3rd Street from the REAP, the Rent Escrow Account Program. I'm not sure why the matter has been continued over. I understand that Councilmember Cedillo had requested it, and I do not understand why. This property is in excellent condition. It has been passed by Senior Inspector Smith, Lee Smith, of the Housing Department. He is, in fact, a principal inspector. I would like to say, with regard also to 1630, I can quantify the improvements to the property very briefly. In 2014, 1630 more than doubled its payroll for maintenance on team staff from $87,000 to $179,000. And combined in 2014 and 15, 1630 invested $412,900. So in closing, in recognition of this investment during the 2013 through 15 period, it's representative of the property owner who takes responsibility seriously. The sign-off recommendation by the Housing Department confirms such, and I therefore respectfully urge the adoption of the resolution and findings pertinent to 1630. Again, 5A on your calendar. And I thank you all very much for your time and for listening.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, John Walsh, item 5.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dams. This is the REAP account. As I keep telling people, you want to get your landlord on this list, and he's violated the code. Just send a report to the city, and he won't be getting your rent anymore. Under this REAP, the city will get it until he corrects whatever code violations there are in your apartment. And so we have some good, and some of these people on REAP don't belong on REAP. HollywoodHighlands.org, I know they don't show you my face, but I'm wearing the orange for anti-violence, and the only other person up here is Nuri Martinez in orange. None of the others knew about it. It's shameful.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Next speaker, Mr. Spindler.
Yes. Congratulations. CD 5, 165 South Mansfield. The Jews have emancipated this building from the slavery of the REAP. CD 7, Sunland, shout out. Excellent repairs on that building. CD 9, Curran, stop doing this to people. 1192 East 41 should have been freed from its slavery a long time ago. And, of course, CD 11, where everything in life is wrong, but 479 Washington Boulevard is right. Now we get to the atrocity, 5A. Do not continue this. He has complied. Take this property on 1630 West 3rd Street off this list. Free him. Free the slaves. Free the owner of this property. Do not continue this. Get him off this list now.
Thank you. That concludes cards for item 5. Madam Clerk, 5A has been continued. Let's vote on the remainder of the items. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, Madam Clerk, item 6.
Item 6, call special for cards.
First speaker, Antonio Ramirez, item 6.
Kamala Harris and the Department of Justice and the LAPD Charlie Beck and council members and corporations are too busy pandering to all the wetbacks and the Latino Chango gangbangers. Kamala Harris and the Department of Justice talked of principle and her convictions for the victims, but that was all lip service. She doesn't give a crap about victims of crime. How the hell is she going to stop the gangs and help these children from pedophiles. Again, most of the gangbangers and wetbacks, a large majority of them, and we're not even told, are committing pedophilia to a lot of American children. A lot of them are not speaking, and a lot of this will not hit the news. Again, stop the crimes, especially against these Latino Chango gangbangers and wetbacks, who are the most violent pedophiles across America. Again, please, let's stop this. And again, God bless the children and preserve them and help them and edify their spirits, protect the little auras. God bless America and God bless the United States military. We can't forget the military.
Thank you. Next speaker, Michael Hunt.
Well, I bet the Department of Justice would have never threw me out. Decorum, Department of Justice.
He's not on
LAPD.
topic.
Wait.
Mr. Hunt, you need to stay on the topic. It's item 6, sir. Sir, item 6.
Justice. Department of Justice. Beyond is racism.
Thank you. Next speaker, Brian Barajas.
I don't think anybody should actually consider the fact that, you throw a little money here and there, but it's not going to really help. I know reports have been coming out that, pedophilia predominates in London, and so it shouldn't be a surprise that in this country, particularly the collapse of the economy, you get pedophiles or criminality, especially when you connect the fact that the mental training isn't being enforced or guided in the culture. In other words, what you're looking at when you do these measures of increasing funding here for departments there, and this seems to be on the agenda. That you seem to be allocating funding for LAPD to do their job, which is, it's good, but it would not prevent, or I should probably direct my comments to, if you really want to get at the cost of this, you got to understand one thing. What is this country doing in terms of productive force?
Mr. Barajas, you're not talking about the subject.
Yeah,
Sir,
I know.
Item 6.
Well, yeah, in part. That's the problem. You want to get at the structure of preventing pedophiles, right? This is what's happening with this program, that you would like to provide money for services that will deal with the so-called issue. But what I'm saying is that's not how you deal with the issue. And so whenever I get to the subject of the cause of something, you get interruptions.
Next speaker, Wayne Spindler. Thank you. Next speaker, there is no name, but the affiliation is Public at Large. Did someone fill out a card that says Public at Large? Is that you, Mr. Herman?
That's correct, for the record. As I may address what is a child sexual predator, many of you, the same way you allowed Mr. Department of Building and Safety, Andrew Adelman, to drop a pill into someone's drink and get it over.
Mr. Herman, you're not speaking about the subject. This is item 6, sir.
Predators, it cannot just be a child. It could be a man or adult, a lesbian or a gay. So don't go off topic on a subject matter as you anticipate what we say, as you interrupted Michael Hunt in the red, and you interrupted Mr. Barajas. So I'm going to hold my time to refuse to rebuttal any comment from the city attorney.
He still has not talked about the topic.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Thank you. That concludes our cards for item 6, Madam Clerk. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Item passes. Next, item 10.
Item 10 calls special for cards.
Wayne Spindler.
Oh, look at all that money. Oh, look at all that money for the LAPD. Just what we need, more money for the LAPD. They do such a great job, like in Venice, 2 shots to the side of an unarmed man. So they need another $1.7 million for another grant. No, the real answer is no more money for the LAPD. Deny this. Port security, LAPD. They're just words. They're just words on paper. The feeling is that they're not doing their job. So instead of giving all of this money to a useless, overpaid department, disband the LAPD and use the money to hire the Sheriff's Department to do our policing. It's good for you. It's good for me. It's good for everybody.
Next speaker, Mr. Herman, item 10.
Madam Speaker, in my impeachment of the Homeland Security Federal Emergency Management Agency, I find that the money is going towards the LAPD. Is a reckless concern to the public. The public knows because they are telling me, your constituent, and all you constituents, all you Angelinos.
Mr. Herman, item 10.
Homeland Security, we're not protected. Ask Herman up there. He'll tell you as he shakes his head with the city attorney. The TSA and LAX has become 95% at fault for allowing us to become...
He is not talking about this item.
But again, we can't provide LAPD. Oh, wait a minute. I got 2 minutes. I got 1 more minute, Mr.
You need to speak about the subject,
Still
sir.
not on topic.
May I proceed?
Mr. Herman, you need to speak about item 10.
You are. Calm down. Calm down.
Thank you, Mr. Herman.
To submit a grant reimbursement request to the grantor and the deposit grant receipt in funds number 33970. What a freaking joke. Why don't you really put money to its good use, LAPD? And the little man syndrome up there, Herman, as I said it right, Herb?
He is still not on topic.
Sir, you're done. Mr. Herman? You're done. Sergeants, please ask Mr. Herman to take a seat. Thank you, Mr. Herman.
He now is disrupting the meeting by continuing to talk.
This concludes our cards for item 10. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 11.
Item 11, call special for cards.
Spindler.
City train wreck continues. Now, we're down the tracks, continuing this railroad derailment for the LAPD. The 2012 U.S. Department of Justice, that's the last thing we need is them joining the LAPD to shoot innocent suspects. We don't need that. Do not pass item 11. No more money for the corrupt LAPD. No more money to hire anybody else. They can't. I went to the police commission meeting this morning. They had no report on this item. They had no report at all. So they do not know what to do with this money. You're just feeding them money, and then it goes around and around and around and around, down the train wreck, and it goes nowhere but into slush funds. It's not going into boots on the ground to stop crime. Stop the derailment.
Next speaker, Byron Barajas. Mr. Barajas, are you here? Item 11, sir.
I did not fill out a card for item 11.
Sir,
but
I have
if
a card here that has your name on it that says
but if,
item 11.
but if I did, I can speak to it.
You're the one that filled out the card, sir, not I. Go ahead.
Can I see that card, by the way?
Mr. Barajas, are you going to speak on item 11? If not, we need to move on.
Well, it's the same. Well,
Thank you. That concludes our cards for item 11. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 12.
Item 12 calls special for cards.
John Walsh, item 12.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, or Jay Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. This concerns a federal grant for community-oriented policing services. COPS is the acronym. I've never seen any of these people in Hollywood. The building across the street from me is owned by a graffiti gang. And if you want to know the name, just check at Yucca and Argyle, EMS, Evil-Minded Soldier Gang. I would ask these community-oriented police to come in here, and I'll tell them the names of all the gangs, because they don't know nothing about no gangs. And I would expect that our federal money would go to clean up Hollywood, because when you are in Hollywood, the mayor is not Garcetti. The mayor is the
He is not talking about this item.
About community-oriented police services and the terrible job they're doing.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Mr. Byron Barajas. Did you fill a card for this item, sir? Okay, good.
Yeah. Now, the thing is that obviously I'm supportive of it. Technology grant. Obviously, if the LAPD will like to support their activities, obviously this would be it. So I am for it. Just be careful how you use all of that.
Thank you. Next speaker, Michael Hunt, item 12.
Technology to a train wreck? LAPD? I think that this grant is not warranted until Charlie Beck fixes up his station and we get rid of Dion O'Connor as a city attorney. Choo-choo!
That concludes our cards for item 12. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, Madam Clerk, item 13.
Item 13 calls special for cards.
Sean, item 13.
Item 13, pass.
Thank you. Next speaker, Byron Barajas. Did you fill out a card for this item?
I think I had a question for this. If anybody can speak to what is the particular aspects of, because I read here, you know, it's for economic development for this property, but what the Economic and Workforce Development Department, I mean, can anybody speak to this in detail? But if it's for development, then good.
Thank you, Mr. Barajas. There are no more cards on item 13. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Item passes. Next item. Let's go to item 9, Madam Clerk.
Item 9 calls special for cards.
Sean, item 9.
Yes, item 9. It's good for the city.
Thank you, Sean. Next speaker, John Walsh. He passes. There are no more cards on item 9. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 21.
Item 21 calls special for cards.
First speaker, Brian Barajas, item 21. I'm sorry, sir. You're out of time, Mr. Barajas. Thank you. Next speaker, Donna Perlman. Donna, you're speaking on item 21.
This is 21. This is for the sale exemption for energy and water efficient home appliances. So I hope that you actually make these items for water efficiency home appliance something for the most people, for an average person to have. So that this is not something just so the rich people could have this item. And as Waylon said, oh, thank you for having this item. Because, you know, how would we live without it? We wouldn't know how to buy these appliances if you didn't have the sale exemption for it. So anyway, let's make it for the normal people to have it, and let's bring water efficiency for all of the households and not just for the rich. But I do like sale exemptions, sales tax, if most of the people can have it. Thank you.
Next speaker, Mr. Herman, item 21.
AB 88, Mr. Gomez in Sacramento. You wish to seek taxes of exemption for emergency water efficient home appliances at a time when we're still in a recession, and yet DWP continues to enforce overcharges and cost towards the people. This is a matter of importance, Mr. Gomez, on AB 88, and you are not efficient or acting on behalf of the public's interests. Do you get it? Robin Hood would like for you to know that if there is such a thing as water-efficient home appliances, why in the hell weren't you helping us back then when you were in Sacramento? So stuff it, Gomez, and your water-efficient home appliances for 1 minute of public comment.
That concludes our cards for items 21. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 7.
Item 7 calls special for cards.
Mr. Walsh, item 7.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. We recognize the chair. We don't recognize the city attorney. He goes through the chair. Number 7, this concerns Homeland Security. I just want you to know, this gentleman that you arrested, this black man, and claimed that Homeland Security, this concerns terrorism. Is terrorism struck here? Well, this man that was arrested for the Da Vinci fire, you said had nothing to do with terrorism, but the LA Times says who arrested him? Terrorist police. Anti-terrorist police arrested him. If I'm wrong, let the LA Times, that's what it says, because it looks pretty much like this explosion over there wasn't done by one black man. Always blame it on the black man, right, Kern? And it was done by terrorism, and they want to cover it up. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you. Next speaker on item 7, Eric Previn. Is he here? Eric Previn is not here. That concludes cards for item 7. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 8, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Herman? Mr. Herman, item 8? Oh, you passed? Great. Michael Hunt, item 8.
Is this another one about LAPD and the train wreck? Or is it about Chief Charlie Beck? I got to say this. To implicate a public service safety committee, Chief Beck, you failed. To implicate anything for LAPD, we need a new chief of police.
Sir, you are not speaking about the subject. This is item 8.
The police investigation. It's about the Department of LAPD, right? Chief Charlie Beck is a train wreck.
That concludes cards for item 8. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 14.
Item 14 calls question for card.
Sean. He passes. Eric Previn. Eric Previn is not here. John Walsh. Item 14.
Jay Walsh Confidential and tweeting at Hollywood Dems. This is my favorite agenda item. This agenda item is relative to certifying the results of the election of May 19th. Everything is unofficial till you pass this. You will pass it now, and you will welcome David Rue onto the city council. You've been very, very nasty towards him. You didn't have him come over here. David Rue is not officially elected till you vote on this. And as far as the loathsome Tamara Galatzin, we beat her with Mr. Schmerlson. She's up there at the city attorney's office. She gives it all the flex time. She does almost no work up there because she was given all the time so she could ruthlessly campaign. And the result was Schmerlson whipped her ugly butt. Remember, we will now have, when you vote this now, which will occur in under 30 or 40 seconds, it will be official, and we want the world to know that despite the racism of people on the city council like Herb Wesson, we are now inviting an Asian, American, Korean on this board. When we take huge amounts of money for the development, but we didn't want yellow skin. You know what they say? If you're black, if you're brown, you can stay around. If you're white, that's all right. But if you're black or Asian, stay back, stay back, stay back. We celebrate the victory. That's where we're wearing orange anti-violence gun time. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Next speaker, Mr. Herman, item 14.
Church for you, Rue. R1.
Item 14, Mr. Herman.
About voting, Miss President. Whatever, yeah. I'm talking about Mr. Voting decisions on item number 14, City Clerk Resolution relative to the certified results of the voters. And again, Hollywood Highland, John Walsh, Hollywood Highland, John Walsh, Mr. Monopoly Man, as you laugh there. It's funny, but you know what? Look at, where's LeBron?
Mr. Herman, you're not speaking about the subject.
Voters.
One more time. Thank you, Mr. Herman. You're done. Thank you very much. Next speaker, Mr. Michael Hunt. Sergeants, can you show Mr. Herman where to sit? Thank you. Mr. Hunt, item 14. 14, Mr. Hunt.
14. I love the Koreans. They did a good job when they came here. I love them, I love them, I love them.
That concludes cards for item 14. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Let's hear from the general public comment. First speaker is Richard Eastman.
Distinguished City Council, resident of Los Angeles since 1976, Richard Eastman, former HIV/AIDS Commissioner, LGBT for 62 years, living with AIDS for 21 years, and ultimately, I'm thinking of running for the United States Senate, kids, and that's Loretta Sanchez and Kamala Harris's seat, but I have till March to do that. But here today, on this day of gay freedom, when I moved to Los Angeles, and I was in the parade in 1970, and I helped save the Hollywood sign and people with AIDS and medical marijuana, I'm horrified that you've taken away our rights to speak at the beginning of the council meeting and given us 1 minute. And when I get back to Washington, D.C. in a couple of weeks at the White House for the 45th Smoke-In at the White House on July 4th, I'm going to be meeting with the Justice Department to demand a class action lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles for violating our civil rights to be able to speak at the beginning of the meeting for more than 1 minute. So I'm angry. Thank you, Ms. Council
Thank
President.
you very much. The next speaker is Charles Cousins.
It's a tough act to follow. My name is Charles Cousins. I'm one of the few people advocating for still a stadium within the confines of the city of Los Angeles. We handed out earlier a package to all of you distinguished city council members. We'd like you to investigate our proposal. We recognize the fact that Mr. Kroenke out in Englewood has a lot of money, $2.something billion to invest. We recognize that we don't have that right now, but we could get private money. We have the best location, unequivocally, for the location of a football stadium, and that's adjacent to Dodger Stadium, and an owner, a part owner of the land, who's willing to negotiate this. We're talking about millions upon millions of dollars for the city of L.A. over the next 30 to 40 years. Please look into it. Please call us. I thank you all very much for your time and your attention.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Omar Baldwin.
Hello, City Council. My name is Omar Baldwin. I'm the founder and CEO of Peace Please Nonprofit. Peace Please Nonprofit is building a coalition with the schools, the churches, and the local governments in each and every community. We're based in Inglewood, California, and today I would like to talk about our Peace on Earth project. We're fundraising to purchase 7 square miles of property in any place we can. And what we're going to do, we're going to set up a Peace Democracy. The Peace Democracy was created in 2013 by a group of really educated and enthusiastic youth. And it's all been written down, and we have everything on file and record. And we're trying to fundraise some money, and we're just trying to get started. And we actually seen some property in Uganda. It was about $19 million. But if we're able to fundraise that much money, we'll probably hopefully gain sovereignty with the help of Ambassador Powers or the President, Hillary Clinton, or the United Nations.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Sean.
Just because David Wu won the election, they will still have trouble getting into Sherman Oaks, Toluca Lake, and Los Feliz because they're Irish communities, and we're not going to let them move in.
Thank you. Next speaker, Donna Perlman.
This is Donna Perlman. As long as we have let ISIS grow, who kill LBGT, we will not have won. Anyway, Los Angeles, be warned. Obama has given us many enemies by pulling out of Iraq, and the Democrats are responsible for voting in him. After 2 times promising that he would back Iraq, Obama went and promised to U.S. to Iraq and pulled out. The Middle East has been taken over by ISIS. Don't be fooled. We are not safe here. Obama started a new war, beginning of World War III. Iraq, who Iraq will also be against us now since we pulled out. We have ISIS, Iraq dictators who hate us, like Cuba, China, North Korea, Russia with nuclear weapons, who hate us, Boko Haram, and other terrorists, Boko Haram. We're in danger.
Thank you, Donna. Next speaker, John Walsh.
Jay Walsh Confidential. They won't show our faces here, but I'm wearing orange, and so is the chair lady. We want a debate this month here in L.A. Come to Jay Walsh Confidential to hear more about it, a presidential debate. We have 3 candidates. The Democratic Party wants to wait till the end of the year. We don't need the Democratic Party. Come to Jay Walsh Confidential and read it. Hillary, Bernie, O'Malley, and I don't know if you, someone up here who hasn't decided can be the, hasn't endorsed Hillary, can be the chair of the debate, the moderator of the debate, maybe Mr. Cedillo, or even Mr. Fuentes, Mr. O'Farrell. We need a debate now to find out who to vote for. HollywoodHighlands.org, Jay Walsh Confidential, debate now, 3 candidates.
Next speaker, Antonia Ramirez.
This is a matter of principle. Fumigate LA with Lysol and bleach. Stop the urban blight and toxic domestic terrorism by these filthy, violent, wetbacks, Chango Latino gangbangers who are jealous, nosy, racist hate mongers who steal all your things. Having said that, most of these who hire them as foot patrol soldiers to gang stalk you are the Masonic lodges, the Freemasons, judges, attorneys, the ADL, the FBI, the CIA, ACLU, the NAACP, MECHA, Hermanidad Mexicana, Mark Ridley Thomas, Gloria Molina, the Naka sisters, Loretta Linda Sanchez, so is Gloria Molina, Camilla Harris, Barbara Boxer, Dianne Feinstein, Charles Schumer, Mexican Mafia, MS-13, Neighborhood Nosy Councils, Public Law Center, Legal Aid, taxi cab drivers, Meldef, Naleo, LULAC, all Hispanic caucuses, all black caucuses, Black Panthers, and the Sheriff's Department, Charlie Beck, and the LAPD, and the ACLU. God bless America, and God bless the military.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Eric Previn. Eric Previn is not here. Herman. Is he here, Mr. Herman?
"1998 Federal Government Crime Victims with Disability Awareness Act. Mandate the collection of crime statistics involving people with disabilities, denying them 1 minute to complain about the situations here in the city of Los Angeles, with onlookers who observed and reported to detectives regarding the assaults like Peppa Pig, Mr. Koretz, who attacked me right here in 2014. What are the rights of disabled from violent and hateful crimes? I'm directing them towards you, Consul. Affording protection. American Disability Act, Mr. City Attorney, that you and the Bustamante from commissions have ignored. Harassment, harassment, harassment is the same as saying life's a bitch. MOU, make others understand, bitch.
Thank you so much, Mr. Herman. The next speaker is Mr. Wayne Spindler.
It's already started. The train wreck, Charlie Beck. Woo-hoo, he's being derailed. He didn't show up to the meeting today at the police commission. He put in his chair a deputy chief of police, yes, a black man. Woo-hoo. So now the inspector general of the LAPD and all of the other puppets had no reports today at their meeting. So they don't have a policy, no direction, It's just a train wreck. It's going.
Mr. Spindler, can we hold this time? Mr. Hahn, can you please sit down? There is no walking in the aisle. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Mr. Spindler.
Okay, so the train wreck has begun. 2:45, the chief of police, bring him here. Fire Charlie Beck now. Save the train from the train wreck.
Next speaker, Michael Hunt.
All right. You guys need to practice the decorum rules. The city attorney don't know shit. Fuck that white nigger, too. And if he ever listens to Dean Pragerson, Dow versus the city of Los Angeles, maybe he might know the rules of decorum. He joins with Chief Charlie Beck is a train wreck. Now the city attorney is a train wreck. Dion, what are you doing? You're a fucking train wreck out here. You don't mind federal judges. They create standards down here for the city council. Get your shit together. You're the city attorney. Don't become a jackass.
Next speaker, Mr. Byron Barajas.
Well, on the LaRouche PAC website, we're going to have a lot of jam-packed events coming into the Saturday event in New York. Now, the intention of this week is to get the American people a little bit more intelligent in terms of organizing their own thinking powers. Right now, I can say that Rand Paul has introduced a bill, S-1471, which is a companion bill to HRS 14, which will declassify the 28 pages into the terror network Axis from Saudi Arabia. Another potential candidate that we're looking at is Martin O'Malley, since he's the only one competent enough to speak on the issue of Glass-Steagall shutting down these bastards called Wall Street or usurpers. So,
next speaker, Henry Marin.
Same old shit. MOUs account for every cent shelter for pay of Hackney Coal employees by direction of you, the Hackney Board City Council. And a people that lack the conscience to account for the money shelter from pay of Hackney Coal employees cannot expect to keep their asses in their seats because you're doing the same shit as Michael Martin Ludlow. You're taking money from public employees and forgetting to account for the principal and interest due. And you've been doing it for 25 years, so you think y'all can get away with it forever. Like in the MOU 62 says, forever. Instead of a maximum of 1,000 hours in the course of a year. All you people from the assembly, y'all made these writing, y'all wrote these writing, and now you don't want to read it for the benefit of we the people. Turn my back on you. Everybody, look, turn your back on me.
Thank you, Mr. Marin. That concludes public comment. Madam Clerk, what's before us?
Madam President, there's a request to send item 14 forthwith.
I'm going to ask the audience to please lower your voice. Thank you, Madam Clerk. What's before us?
There's a request to send item 14 forthwith.
Without objection.
Council has motions for post and referral.
Posted and referred.
That clears the desk.
Members, any announcements? Can we please stand up for adjournments? Any council adjournments? Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, it's with great sadness I announced today the passing of Valdine Liberman, who passed away last Wednesday after battling cancer. She was a dedicated Los Angeles Police Reserve Specialist at the Hollywood Administration Office and was a recipient of the Specialist of the Year Award in the Hollywood area in 2008. Services will be held today for Valdine at 11:30 at Mount Sinai, Hollywood Hills. May she rest in peace. And secondly, I ask that we adjourn in memory of Betty Spralia, Passed away at the age of 76, born in Croatia on July 31st, 1938, and came to the United States in April 1946 from Egypt as a World War II refugee and settled in San Pedro. She graduated from San Pedro High School in 1957 and worked at a local bank and had a family gas station for 40 years with her loving spouse, Goiko, and also was a member, dedicated member of the Dalmatian American Club. She is survived by her husband, sister Senya, sons Eddie, Nevin, and Jack, and 4 grandchildren. May she rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buscaino. Anyone else on my left? Anyone else on my right? That adjourns our council meeting. Thank you very much.
Jeez.